So there's back in the news, some design news. There's an article here by Luke Plunkett painting this blog yellow so everyone will click on it, talking about the people are mad again about the use of yellow to show how to move through in a game. And so for Final Fantasy VII. So let's talk about this a little bit, because I think people tend to be wrong on this as well as right on this at the same time. So in general, the problem here is, right, you're trying to identify how to move through the world here and climb. And the other one was a ladder, and the ladder was yellow. Now, using yellow paint is the lazy way, 100%. As a developer, 100%. But, now the rest of this video will be the but. A lot of games work on this in different ways, right? So I think I just recently played Far Cry 4 again, and in places that you can climb, they put rope. And you just learn. Now, does it make any sense that people dropped rope all over this place? And is rope really, like loose rope, really? No, but it's a language, right? And so games try to teach you a language. Now, I saw some talk about this where people were talking about and kind of pulling back like older games. A lot of older single player games could do this really succinctly because they knew where you were going to play, right? They were single player and it was sequential. And so they could teach you things over time. Where often now you're dropped into a modern game, it's multiplayer, you're running around the map. It's a lot to teach you all at once, right? So I am a fan of doing it that way over the tutorial levels because I don't like separating people before going into multiplayer because you're going to play with friends. But okay, whatever. But so there's a bunch of different ways you can try to do it. Lighting, right? Again, like the language like the Far Cry uses, or, you know, any number of games do this in a really simple way. Like most games have it where if there's a handle on the door, you can open the door. If there's not a handle on the door, you can't open the door, right? We learn those languages. But here's the problem. We learn those markers, not those languages. It's the language of the design. So some games are more kind of spread out and crazy, and it gets harder. I think like games, I would even say like, you know, the latest Call of Duty or even like GTA 5, if you look at it, it's messy in a lot of this, but you got time. There's no time pressure. You're moving through. It doesn't matter. You can just jump in and it just doesn't matter. But now games where you wanted the fluid of motion and that feeling of like, oh, I move through this world really well, you need to start having a language of it, right? And often it's a language of don't have in-betweens, right? So the Battlefield series, you can mantle over things, right? Meaning you put an arm up over it and you jump over it, right? Fences and stuff. Now, they're very clear. They've got mantle height and they've got, you can't climb this height, right? Or some games let you jump up and do it, right? But they make it a very distinct. You don't want to make that middle one where you're like, well, can I mantle this or not? Crouch jumping, let's be clear, is the curse of I had to pull that out of our game as much as I could. I think we probably left a few in. Crouch jumping is just the scourge of early FPS players. It's the worst because it's the in-between. Yeah, you can jump it if you know how, which is really bad design. So apologies if you get stuck in any place in my game with that in it, because I try to pull it out. But you want to have not have the either or, right? You want to have it really distinct. Okay, except now you're getting near delivery of the game. You're play testing it, and people aren't making it up this wall. They're not figuring out how to climb. So you try some things. You try some lighting things. You try changing the rock face. You try, I don't know, all kinds of different things. I mean, the game's not like the game. If you look at this rock face, it looks realistic, but you got a giant, stupid sword in your back. Like, that's not realistic. So you don't have to be realistic about it. And so I bet you at some point there was this frustration of like, playtesters keep failing on this. We've got bigger bugs to fix. We have bigger game design issues we can tackle and have a lot more fun with going into. Let's just put some yellow paint down, right? And then it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's a sigh when they did it, right? But they could ship the game, people would know how to play it, they wouldn't get stuck here, and they could do cooler things. So as a game player, when you see it, right, like, so we'll see this in mods all the time of Left 4 Dead 2, where they just, especially later maps, where they're just like, safe room, and they just have a sign. They're like, this way, like, the pathing's hard, just go this way. And I appreciate that, because you're like, hey, you know what? We did all this other cool stuff, we did all the other work. Just go this way. Like, come on, we're playing a video game. We know this isn't real. We don't have to be all exactly perfect. So there you go. So that's what I'm saying about, like, yeah, this is design you don't want to do, but I understand why design you why you do use, because you're in a time crunch or you just have bigger fish to fry, right? Because you're not just in a time crunch at the end of development. You're in a time crunch the day you start making your game. You have limited time and you have to choose what you want to work on, and you want to make it so people can be discoverable of this one part of climbing this one wall, or do you want to make it where combat's super fun, right? And it's always trade-offs. It's always trade-offs. There's not unlimited time. There's not unlimited budgets. And so they made the trade-off here. The rocks are yellow. That's fine. So you can accept it and appreciate when they don't do it, but also accept it and appreciate it when they do.